have long collected rebozos. This silk piece from Santa Maria del Rio is one of my favorites. But it wasn't until recently that I stopped to think about the history of the rebozo. I knew the basics. I've seen women working the backstrap loom, and I knew that Santa Maria del Rio is known for producing the finest silk rebozos that can sell for upwards of thousands of dollars. But I didn't really know where it came from, so I did some research and I wanted to share it with you. So what even is a rebozo? It's not a shawl, it's not a mantilla, although it can function as either. It's a long woven piece of fabric that carries a deep sense of cultural identity. It's a symbol of cultural fusion, resilience, and tradition. Let's talk about the history of the rebozo. In pre-Hispanic Mexico, indigenous women developed intricate weaving techniques. They used backstrap looms to create huipiles, enredos, and quechquemitls. These garments were dyed using natural dyes like the cochineal bug and often featured intricate geometric patterns and decorative items like feathers. Codices like the Codex Mendoza, a 16th century book commissioned by Viceroy Don Antonio de Mendoza, document the use of the backstrap loom by indigenous women. I'll insert an image from the Codex Mendoza here of a woman teaching her daughter how to use the backstrap loom. I really love visual history. Spanish colonialism brought with it a period of deep cultural fusion that profoundly influenced clothing. Indigenous women continued to wear traditional garments, while Spanish women brought with them European garments like mantillas and shawls. And the introduction of materials like silk and wool and technologies like the pedal loom expanded the world of possibilities, while the Manila Galleon trade introduced dyeing patterns, intricate fringes, and different motifs. The first of these Manila Galleons arrived in Acapulco in 1565, carrying with them silks and different textiles from all throughout Asia. Among these imports were textiles featuring ikat patterns, a resist dyeing technique from Southeast Asia that, combined with native practices, has given us patterns like the jaspe, which you can see here. While Spanish women continued to wear continental garments, a 1582 ordinance that banned mestizas, afromestizas, and black women from wearing indigenous garments led to the proliferation of the rebozo. And by the early 1600s, the ikat-inspired jaspe patterns had taken over elite circles. Indigenous weavers, already known for their intricate weaving and dyeing patterns, began incorporating these techniques to develop a uniquely Mexican design. By the mid-18th century, the rebozo was everywhere, and guild ordinances like the 1757 regulations standardized styles. Luxurious materials like gold and silver threads began to be incorporated, along with elaborate motifs featuring bullfights, celebrations, and family crests. This was also the time where regional styles really began to flourish. Michoacán became known for navy blue and white stripes, Oaxaca for white cotton rebozos with scale-like fringes, and Puebla for featuring items like pom-poms, very Spanish-inspired. And by the 19th century, the rebozo had been adopted by women across different social classes. It functioned as a head covering for church, to carry babies, and as a protective garment. Production centers like Santa Maria del Rio became known for producing the most luxurious rebozos. During the Mexican Revolution, Adelitas, revolutionary women, began wearing the rebozo due to its practical nature. This really cemented the rebozo as a symbol of Mexican identity and resistance. And in subsequent decades, famous women like Frida Kahlo and Maria Felix further popularized the rebozo. Later in the 20th century, industrialization and a rise in synthetic materials led to a decrease in the demand for the rebozo. As younger generations became less interested in learning traditional weaving techniques, public and private initiatives arose to protect the rebozo. Today, programs like the Taller Escuela de Rebocería train new artisans, while events like the Concurso Nacional de Rebozo promote cultural appreciation. I think the rebozo is a living garment. Today, contemporary artists and designers are working to revitalize the rebozo and inject it with new contemporary styles to appeal to domestic and international markets. I am a big fan of how designers like Carla Fernandez incorporate techniques like a jaspeado or different fringes to create contemporary garments. Rebozos are made in a wide variety of materials, primarily silk, wool, and cotton. Silk, which was introduced during colonization, is used for luxurious ceremonial rebozos, while cotton is more popular for everyday wear. Woolen rebozos are popular in colder climates and are perfect for winter. And today, Articela, a cellulose-based semi-synthetic fabric introduced in the 20th century, is a cost-effective alternative. Synthetic dyes are increasingly common, although natural dyes like the grana cochinilla, known for the bright red pigment it produces, are still used today. Cultural preservation initiatives are working to revive natural dyeing techniques, and collectors and connoisseurs often seek out rebozos made with natural dyes. We will talk about weaving, but first I want to dive a little bit deeper into a particular dyeing technique, jaspeado. It is such a cool technique, and I love how it embodies the blending of different cultures that gave us the rebozo. It often starts with a pattern inspired by nature or folklore, And what's so cool is that there's no written record of these patterns, they're all passed down orally. Individual threads or bundles are tied to create resist areas. These tied sections are then dipped into dye baths, often requiring several passes in different dye baths to create the perfect color. These tied sections resist the dye, creating a pattern, sort of like tie-dyeing. Once dyed and dried, the threads are meticulously aligned to ensure that the correct pattern emerges. Even the most minimal of changes will affect the pattern, so this is truly a painstaking process. Moving on to weaving, we have to talk about the backstrap loom. This pre-Hispanic invention is still widely used today. These looms are portable and perfect for intricate, detailed designs. Traditionally used by women, they use the weight of the body to create tension. And what I find truly incredible is that weavers don't use any sort of predetermined pattern. Again, it's all passed down orally and there are no written records. It is such a mesmerizing process to watch. I've linked a video in the caption below if you want to check it out. After the arrival of the Spanish, the pedal loom became more popular, particularly for its ability to make wider pieces of fabric, although they are less practical for intricate designs. And interestingly, in many communities, the telar de cintura is seen as women's work, while the pedal loom is seen as men's. I should also mention that today, mechanical looms are used to mass-produce rebozos, but I'm more interested in the artisanal practices, so I'll focus on those. Once the weaver is done with the rebozo, it's time for the fringe work, or empuntado. Inspired by the mantones de Manila, rebozos often incorporate intricate fringe work. This practice has been made distinctively Mexican by the development of unique patterns and tying techniques, often inspired by flora and fauna. Fringes are super labor-intensive and often take artisans weeks to complete. Specialized artisans, known as empuntadoras, work on these fringes in between household work. And because they take so much time and expertise to complete, the fringe of a rebozo can have a huge impact on the price of the garment, sometimes even doubling the price. And not to brag, this is my nicest rebozo, but just look at the fringe work. And although the rebozo is ubiquitous throughout Mexico, it's not without regional variations. I'm not going to touch on all of them because we would be here all day, but I'll mention some of the most well-known. We have to start with Santa Maria del Rio in San Luis Potosí. This region is known as the cradle of the rebozo and is known for producing really luxurious silk rebozos like the one I'm wearing today. Santa Maria artisans are masters of the jaspeado, producing patterns like caramelo, pinto abierto, and the palomo. Rebozos from this region are also known for their particularly intricate fringes. These can take up to 20 days to complete, while the weaving of the rebozo can take up to 10. You can understand why some of these rebozos cost thousands of dollars. And the finest rebozos are often kept in intricate marquetry boxes, which emphasizes their value as heirlooms. Moving on to other regions, Querétaro is known for its silk rebozos due to the presence of sericulture in the region. And in Michoacán, Purepecha artisans specialize in wedding and ceremonial rebozos, often in navy and white. And in Tenancingo, in the state of Mexico, empuntadoras are known for very intricate fringe patterns that often incorporate arches, stars, or even initials. Central states like Morelos and Puebla are known for making woolen rebozos in dark colors that are often used for ceremonial purposes. And Yucatan is known for vibrant thread work and drawn thread embroidery known as deshilado. We'll end with Oaxaca, which is known for its cultural preservation initiatives and is leading the way in the revival of natural dyeing techniques. In particular, grana cochinilla, but also sea mollusks and indigo. I honestly can't think of a garment that more clearly encapsulates Mexican identity than the rebozo. Not only because it's everywhere, it's got both ceremonial and practical uses, but also because of how deeply its history is interwoven with our countries. It has pre-Hispanic roots and bears the influence of Spanish colonialism and world trade, just like Mexico. I hope you enjoyed learning about the history of the rebozo as much as I did. I'll be sharing more educational content here, so make sure to like and subscribe.